Hi, my name's Andy XL, and this is another NFXL podcast. Hopefully, those of you that have listened to a few of these now or watched a few of these will be getting used to my face and my voice. My voice isn't the most exciting, but there you go, that's me. Um, I'm just excited on the outside, but the inside I can't control the voice. Right, so I looked at the first part of Sunday, including the Thursday night game where I predicted the Packers would win. Um, and I also looked at the early Sunday window. So now in this preview of week two, I'm going to look at the late window of games and the games on Monday and Tuesday um, as we go forward. So let's start with the Carolina Panthers at the Arizona Cardinals. The Panthers were really poor offensively in week one. The Cardinals did enough to get a hard-earned win over the Saints. So neither team comes into this on top offensive form for sure. Carolina's okay. Carolina's O-line should be okay this season. The Cardinals have a really good one though. Both teams have decent D lines too, so the problems don't really lie in that area for either team in the trenches. The Cardinals beat the Panthers in Week 16 last season, but it took them overtime to do so. And James Conner and Chuba Hubbard both had big games in that one for the respective teams. With both quarterbacks getting sacked 3 times, the pass rushers had a good day too. Um, with home advantage and clearly the better roster, the Cardinals should win this one fairly easily for me. But as I have expressed before, Kyler Murray can make mistakes when rushed into them. If he doesn't get time in the pocket, he can make mistakes. So he needs to avoid that sort of mistake in this one for the Cardinals to cruise to that expected victory. So I'm putting that bit of a caveat on there. If the Panthers can get to him and make him feel uneasy, get him out of the pocket, rush him into mistakes, there could be a surprise result here, but I still think the Cardinals will get home. But I can see them doing so by leaning on James Conner in this one. And that, as I say, that should be enough for him to get to 2-0 for the season. If I was picking out fantasy picks in this team, well, I've already mentioned them, James Conner and Chuba Hubbard, but I'll throw Trey McBride in there as well, because tight ends did fare pretty well against the Panthers last season, so that might be another one. Um, and the one I put in the risky category is Ted McMillan. Um, don't think that the rookie's going to have a big game in this one. So the prediction, Cardinals 27, Panthers 20. But as I said before, I always have a bit that asterisk next to Cardinals predictions in the close-ish games because of that Murray tendency to make mistakes if a pass rush gets to him. But I'm going to take the Cardinals by 27 to 20. Right, I'll have a quick sip of coffee. Coffee, depending where you come from. Denver Broncos at Indianapolis Colts. This is going to be a good game to watch. It features the much vaunted Bo Nix off a strong rookie season and Daniel Jones seeking redemption in new surroundings and looking to get back to back up an exceptional week one performance. The Broncos have highly rated O&D lines, which is actually the key to their success. Nix has the luxury of benefiting from one of the very best O lines in the league. Now, my comments so far on Bo Nix might be sounding I'm a bit down on him. I'm not. I think he's a good young talent, but the sort of elevating him to sort of elite status prematurely, I think might be a bit premature, in literally. So let's just wait and see with him how he develops. Um, the Colts have a decent O line, certainly the best Daniel Jones would have started behind during his time in the NFL, which might explain his improved performance. But that's only 1 week, so let's see if he can back it up, like I say, and continue as the season goes on. But the D line is their real strength, and it is one of the best in the league. The Broncos won the game between these two last season, as the Broncos D essentially wore down the Colts, resulting in 3 Broncos fourth quarter touchdowns. They were only 3 points. There were only 3 points in it entering the final quarter, though. Nix threw 3 picks and 3 touchdowns in that game, whereas Anthony Richardson threw two picks without passing for a touchdown. So the that tells you the story of the game, really. Jonathan Taylor went for 100 yards without a score as well. Um, So, there's another point to look for in this game. For the Colts to beat the Broncos here, they will need their defense to generate turnovers again, minimize their own errors, and be able to be red zone efficient. So that pretty much applies to every game for every team, but I think it's particularly important for the Colts here. So they need to be red zone efficient, and that can be either on the ground or through the air to Tyler Warren, maybe. Um, the young rookie had a really good. I said before the start of the season, I think he's clearly the top tight end out of this class. I have him ahead of Colston Loveland, and whilst he might not quite be Brock Bowers, I think he's really good. The Broncos may face the same red zone scenario as they need to be able to score on the ground when they get down there. I think both teams are going to have trouble scoring through the air. So I think who can be red zone efficient on the ground is going to be crucial in this game. All of which points to this one being a close call. I know there's a lot of, like I say, I'm not bought in entirely to the Knicks Denver hype. I mean, when people were looking at the AFC West as to who could dethrone the Chiefs, all the talks from various things I read seem to be that the Broncos are the challenge. Well, no, it's the Chargers for me. The Chargers are more likely to take that division title from the Chiefs than the Broncos. But like I say, this one could be a close call. Knicks was poor in week one and needs a bounce back game here, whereas Jones was really excellent and needs to back it up. So it's a tough call, but I'm actually going to go for the Colts by the narrowest of margins. I like Tyler Warren in fantasy, and a risk might be Michael Pittman. As I say, trying to get your wide receivers into the end zone might be difficult here. Score prediction, as I said, narrowest of margins. Colts 20, Broncos 19. So now, Super Bowl rematch time. This is the game of the week that everybody will be looking at. Philadelphia Eagles at Kansas City Chiefs. So before I have a look at it, I'll support my voice with another coffee. So the highest profile game of the week, Super Bowl rematch, and with the champion Eagles 1-0 and the Chiefs 0-1, this is huge for the Chiefs in particular. We all remember the Eagles pass rush dominated the Chiefs O-line in the title game last season. The Chiefs have tried to address the O-line, and the Eagles are definitely weaker on their D-line than last season. So potentially the Chiefs should fare better on that front in this game. Sorry, my throat is very croaky. Let's keep going. So the Chiefs should fare better on offense this time around. However, they're severely depleted at receiver, so may need another big Mahomes performance and a strong ground game to win this one. And I just do not see the Chiefs being able to run the ball on the Eagles enough to keep pace with the likes of Saquon Barkley, the Eagles receivers, and Hurts and his brotherly shove. So I'm going for an Eagles win that puts the Chief in an early season hole here. I'll take Jalen Hurts as my fantasy pick, and my risks, Travis Kelce. I'm probably going to say that every week pretty much this season, because I just think he's still being seen as the quarterback, as the tight end he was, rather than the aging tight end he now is, and he's on the decline. Nobody's escaped age. He's no exception, and that's why I'm making a fantasy risk. Saquon Barkley, I think, could be a risk because I just think the Chiefs will try and do everything they can to contain him. So it might be Hurts and the receivers that do the damage here. Isaiah Pacheco, like I said, I think the Chiefs will struggle to run the ball. So I'm going to take the Eagles by 27-20. That brings us on to Sunday Night Football. The Atlanta Falcons at the Minnesota Vikings. The Falcons and notably Michael Penix tried to pull the Bucks game out of the fire with a couple of desperation high-risk plays that went in their favour last week. But in truth, even though the Bucks looked undercooked for the season opener, the Falcons still came up short in a divisional match they really needed to win at home. Now they head to Minnesota to face the Vikings, who come into this after a Monday Night Football victory over the Bears. Falcons will wait for good news. Will hope for good news. Star wide receiver Drake London, and I'm just going to check if there's an update on that while whilst we're here. Sorry, bear with me 1 second if I can type, that is. Right, he looks like he's going to play. That's the long and short of it there. So they've got the good news they wanted. Um, so that's a help for them. Losing him would have really hurt them for this game against the powerful Vikings offense with newbie JJ McCarthy at quarterback. The Vikings D, already missing Harrison Smith, has now lost inside linebacker Blake Cashman for a few weeks, and also have Jeff Okudah going through the concussion protocol this week. Um, so, they're in trouble. They're potentially looking thin in their secondary. Both have strong O lines and have sought to improve weak D lines. The Falcons desperately needed pass rushers and has drafted two to try and fix the issue. The Vikings have more gone down the veteran route in that area. But these offenses have the talent to be highly productive, as the Vikings were when they hammered the Falcons last season. Sam Darnold throwing 5 touchdowns in that one, 3 to Jordan Addison and 2 to Justin Jefferson, while Kirk Cousins chucked 2 picks to the ball-hawking Vikings secondary. McCarthy won't have Addison for this one, so look for Justin Jefferson to take more of the load, provided the revamped Falcons pass rush is kept at bay. The Falcons got 150 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns from their running backs in last season's game, so that might be their best hope offensively in this one. This has the look of a real shootout, but the Vikings with home field advantage should edge this one. Fantasy picks: JJ McCarthy again. I think he'll have another good passing game. Justin Jefferson will be the primary beneficiary as usual, and Bijan Robinson for the Falcons. It could have set for another typically Bijan good game. And I'm going to take the Vikings 31-24 over the Falcons. So now to the Monday night doubleheader, which goes into Tuesday UK time, which is why I said Monday, Tuesday earlier. Let's start with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Houston Texans. I know I keep saying this, but the Bucs have almost no weak areas on their roster, whereas judged on week 1, the Texans certainly still have one glaring weakness: their O-line. And with Jake Andrews suffering a high ankle sprain in week 1, that O-line is likely to struggle even further in this game. They're also without star running back Joe Mixon for the early part of the season at least, so they look likely to struggle to run the ball in this one too, meaning they simply have to find a way to protect CJ Stroud better to allow him to find his receivers. The Bucs will still hope to get at least one of Christian Izien or Ben Merrison back to bolster their secondary, but are still likely to be missing Tristan Wirfs on their O-line and wide receiver Chris Godwin. But with Emeka Egbuka having shone in week 1, Godwin's absence has not been as big as it would have been or could have been. Would have been a season or two ago. The Bucs showed plenty of week 1 rust despite winning, but for me, that rust can be knocked off. The Texans' O-line issues look far more serious. So for me, the Bucs win this game as they will be more effective offensively than the Texans. Fantasy picks: I'm going to take the Bucs DST. I think they'll be causing CJ Stroud another night of worry and concern. Mike Evans might do well for the Bucs as their primary receiver. The running backs are a bit of a risk. I think Bucky Irving and definitely Nick Chubb. To maybe avoid them this week. I'm going to take the Bucs to win this one by 24-17. Right, Los Angeles Chargers at Las Vegas Raiders will round off week 2. Two teams on the up here. The Chargers in year 2 of the Harbaugh reign come in after a massive win against the Chiefs, and the Raiders with some great young talent on their roster, fresh off a victory at Foxborough against the Pats. Like the teams as a whole, both O-lines are improving and moving into the top half of the rankings. The Raiders also have a decent D-line, but the Chargers have also sought to improve in that area. The Chargers receiving trio of McConkey, Johnston and Allen, that well-known firm of solicitors, all played really well against the Chiefs. Their run game was quiet in that game, with rookie Marion Hampton having modest returns and vet Najee Harris making minimal impact. I expect Harris to take a more prominent role going forward, though, as he was short of game time and pre-season time coming into week one. So he'll gradually be building up, and they'll hope Harris picks up soon on that regard. The Raiders' young talent in the shape of tight end Brock Bowers, running back Austin Giante, and wide receivers Trey Tucker, Jack Besh, and Dante Thornton give them lots to look forward to long term. Allied to vet Jacoby Myers, the options are there for Geno Smith to utilise, and whilst I've knocked Smith in the past, maybe I need to start rethinking how I look at Geno Smith, because he had a really good week one. So let's see how he does going forward. These two teams met twice last season, with the Chargers winning both by a combined score of 56-30. And despite the improvements made by the Raiders in particular, the Chargers are still likely to come out on top in this one. So I'll take Ladd McConkey as a fantasy pick. Brock Bowers and Ashton Giante both be risks against the Chargers. Bowers looks likely to play despite his injury, but the injury's still got to be concerned. And I think Giante is still going to have trouble running against the Chargers. So run score predictions around the week off. Raiders 20, Chargers 27. So I was 13 of 16 last week in terms of predicting which teams win. Obviously, I've got one in the bag already this week. I'll be hoping to at least match that 13, if not go better. And I've predicted one or two surprises in there. So let's see what happens. Right, that rounds off my week 2 preview. My next pod will be back to the NFL draft, where I'll be looking at the O-line class as we in the embryonic stages of the college season. So come back for that one, because, as I've said before, you won't find a better source, a more accurate source of what to look for in the 2026 draft than listening to my podcasts. All right, thanks now.